Hey tubulars, I went ahead and made some template carb. So let's have a look at my creations here and you can see what So this was my Mark 1 version, bolt onto the rubber mount, and then I was going to go ahead and weld that on top of it like that, and you can see the overhang. I'm restricted on the gaps from the holes because these sides here are up against, especially one side is up against the steering box support. But then I'm thinking afterwards, if I just weld that on there, is that sufficient stability? Probably is, I don't know. So I'm thinking in over engineering slightly. So that was Mark 1. So I'm going with Mark 2 now, which obviously I've got to keep the width the same as that one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it wider, whereby once that's welded on the plate, with the same box section, I've seen other tubers do it where they've literally sliced a 45-degree piece off, and then if you can imagine, when that's sitting there, there's like a triangle piece of the same width that comes down. So that should give me, I mean, I could even bring it up as high as I wanted to, really, depending if I can get the angle correct. Doesn't have to be a 45, but is 45 the strongest? So I might cut two 45s and weld them in there. Obviously I'm limited on this side because of the fixing holes. And I may do something similar at the top end when this is angled off up to the plate. So let's go ahead and cut these out of my 5mm thick steel, and we'll come back when I've cut those two out. So our two landing pads have now been cut. These are what I've got in mind. They look quite big, but I suppose I could try and always trim them down if they look too excessive. So I've taken the rubber mount off that side to get the template. So that will get bolted to there. So there'll be two bolts there and there where my finger and thumb is. Weld up the support section, the 2-inch square section. I'll be welding straight onto that like that. It may even get tilted downwards slightly depending on the angle. And then what I'll do is I'll cut some triangles out of the box section, and they'll be welded on the top and the bottom side for added rigidity. So I think what I'm going to do next is, I haven't got my nuts and bolts yet, but hopefully they'll be here soon. I'm going to try and drill these out and bolt them on there. This one might need trimming a bit. And that one's obviously going to go on that side as well once the rubber boot's back on. So I've gone ahead and cut the plates out, and I've fitted them loosely to our subframe. These aren't the bolts I will be using. These are M8s, and I'll be putting M10s on it eventually. Just put some nice big chunky bolts on it. I don't know if it makes a difference, but so they're my landing pads. Any of the followers watching SpaceX, following SpaceX? Pretty cool stuff, isn't it? I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit that back to the underside of the car. Let's go on and fit this back to the underside of the car. Modified subframe is now being put back loosely into the car with our landing pads. So yeah, they're still off the end of the motor, but that's as close as I'm going to get it, because you can see where I drew a box on the subframe. That's where I originally was going to weld the cradle. So I haven't really come off that much more with it, really, to be honest. So if we just hold our box section up, we can see, we can gauge roughly how much we're going to need. It's just approximation at this stage. So these will be quite short. This one looks like it's got a bigger gap on this side. I'm not 100% sure whether the motor's centralised in the engine bay yet. Try and centralise the motor. It's fixed at the gearbox end. If you look, there's a fixing point where the gear shifter is there, the gear stick. So we're governed by that point, obviously, and it looks pretty central at the moment. Probably could do with going over slightly, which would be in my favour. Looks like it could do with coming over this way slightly. I'm thinking of doing a laser line. There's like a rib line on the bottom of the gearbox on the underside. I'm thinking of getting like a laser line and just trying to aim it down the tunnel where the prop shaft is, to try and centralise it as best as I can. It's hard to get a level on this axis. I'm going to get some cardboard. You can't really see it, it's quite dark, but there are 3 fixings there. There's one there, and there's one down there. So I could probably make a small plate and bring it out to approximately here. The one I'm mostly concerned about is this side. There isn't any real great fixings on this side. Plus you've got a connector here that needs to be plugged in for wiring, and I've got my these are the coolant in and out to keep the motor cool when it's running. So we'll see you on the next one. Have a cup of tea wherever it is. There's no tea. What's going on? Where's the tea? Where is the tea?